The Drelthi war fleet descended on the farming settlement of New Haven like a storm of fire. Population, 843. Strategic value, 0. But the Drelthi Empire didn't care about strategic value. They cared about sending a message. Humans are weak, High Commander Zrath had declared. We will erase one of their villages to prove it. New Haven was perfect, isolated, lightly defended, helpless. The Drelthi bombed it for 6 hours straight, reducing homes to ash, fields to glass. When the smoke cleared, Zrath transmitted images across the galaxy. This is what happens to those who defy the Drelthi Empire. What Zrath didn't know was that New Haven had underground shelters. 73 colonists survived. Among them was Mayor Thomas Reeves, a retired Earth military strategist who'd come to this frontier world for peace and quiet. He wasn't peaceful anymore. Thomas gathered the survivors in the main shelter. They were farmers, teachers, shopkeepers, ordinary people who'd lost everything. We have two choices, he said quietly. We can rebuild and hope it never happens again. Or we can make sure it never happens to anyone again. The vote was unanimous. Over the next 18 months, the survivors of New Haven became something the galaxy had never seen, a village that declared war on an empire. They studied Drelthi culture obsessively, learned their language, customs, weaknesses. They discovered that the Drelthi economy relied on a complex network of trade agreements and resource contracts, all managed from their capital world. Thomas had spent 30 years in Earth's intelligence services before retiring. He knew how empires worked. They didn't fall to armies. They fell to paperwork. The villagers began small. They created shell corporations, hired Drelthi lawyers, and exploited loopholes in the Empire's own labyrinthine legal system. They bought property on Drelth Prime, the capital world. Then more property. Then more. The Drelthi never noticed. Why would they? A few transactions here and there, all perfectly legal, processed by their own bureaucracy. By the time anyone realized what was happening, New Haven survivors owned 40% of Drelth Prime's commercial real estate. Then they activated the trap. Using Drelthi property law, ironically designed to protect powerful landowners, the villagers simultaneously terminated every lease, shut down every business operating on their property, and froze access to critical infrastructure they now controlled. The capital's economy collapsed overnight. Food distribution, halted. Water treatment facilities, offline. Government buildings, locked. The Drelthi military couldn't even access their own command centers, they were leased properties, and the leases had just been terminated. High Commander Zrath watched in horror as his capital descended into chaos. When he tried to seize the properties by force, human lawyers, now representing New Haven, flooded galactic courts with lawsuits. Every major trade partner threatened sanctions if the Drelthi violated their own laws. Thomas broadcast a message across the Empire from his new office, the former High Commander's personal headquarters, which he'd purchased legally 3 months prior. You tried to erase us, he said calmly. You thought we were weak because we were farmers. You forgot that humans don't just grow crops. We grow plans. We grow patience. And when you burn our homes, we don't just rebuild. We take yours. The Drelthi Empire, unable to function without its capital, was forced to negotiate. The terms were simple: complete reparations to New Haven, war crimes trials for those responsible, and a permanent human embassy on Drelth Prime. Oh, and the village kept the real estate. Today, if you visit Drelth Prime, you'll see a monument in the central plaza. It reads, "Never mistake kindness for weakness. Never mistake farmers for fools. Never underestimate humanity." It was paid for, ironically, by rent collected from Drelthi businesses now operating on human-owned land. New Haven rebuilt their village. But they kept their capital too.